All right. We actually did an acceptance study in the south of the Netherlands, a cross-section of the Dutch population, where we asked the question, what type of information actually do need people to start accepting this? And we asked a couple of questions. So we divided a cross-section of the Dutch population, 193 people, in three groups. One got information about the societal benefits. It's good for the planet, it's good for the animals, it's good for food security. One group got information about personal benefits. It's good for you, we can make this healthier for you. And the other group got information, it's just a wonderful product, right? And so in three groups, we asked questions before the information, after the information, and after tasting, because this was initiated by a student from Dijon who did a master in sensory analysis of meat. And so we had people taste a piece of conventional hamburger and a piece that was labeled cultured hamburger, but was in fact exactly the same. It was a bit smaller because it's expensive to make, blah, blah, blah. So we made it credible that it was it's a psychological study. You can fool people in psychological studies. Okay, so we had them taste, and we asked them, well, first of all, we looked, are they going to eat it? And then what do they think of it? This is kind of a complex slide. It's the four questions. Are you in favor of this? Do you want to taste it? Do you want to buy it? Do you want to replace your current meat consumption with cultured meat? And then the colors signified the three different groups. So what is immediately noticeable is that there are not a lot of big differences between the three groups, right? So it doesn't really matter what type of information you give. So those assumptions, apparently are not correct. What's also interesting is that for all the questions, actually giving information, and again, it doesn't really matter what type of information, giving information increased acceptance. And the least of all for taste, because there, the original willingness to taste this little sample was already very high. 92% of the people coming in wanted to taste this hamburger. So people are adventurous, and they don't think it's going to kill them immediately, but maybe in the long run. All right, and the other interesting thing is that everybody ate that cultured piece of hamburger. So if you have it in front of you, and it looks and feels and smells the same, because in this case it was, the initial fear kind of disappears, right? So the awkwardness kind of disappears. And kind of predictably, people found, those 200 people found the cultured hamburger tasting better than the regular one, although they were exactly the same. But this is known. If you make something more expensive and more exclusive, it starts to taste better. So this technology allows us to make hamburgers. It's more difficult to make a steak, a ribeye, which really is my next project. And it requires a little bit of different technology. And here something interesting might come up. Again, we don't know that. But something interesting might come up. Because a hamburger, we eat hamburgers, for crying out loud from McDonald's that don't look like meat at all if you just buy them in the supermarket. But if you make a ribeye and you make it exactly the same, and you even create variation in this, and it's going to be made by us in the lab, it becomes a little bit more freaky, perhaps. So the concept of uncanny valley, which is known for humanoid robots, this is Sophia, by the way, and they kind of avoided this uncanny valley sensation because they made her brain look transparent, and she's usually shipped without legs and arms. So it's you kind of, although her expressions are very real and her answers are reasonably real, you still get the idea, oh yeah, she's not. But that is something that we have to, at some point, consider. Back to reality, there are two more things that I want to say. One is that 250,000 euro hamburger, of course, is not a solution for a problem. So we have to get down, and we envision that in 3 years from now, so that's actually 2021, we will be having hamburgers for about 10, 11 euro for a hamburger, which is still expensive, but we know that we can get down from that price. And then an interesting thing is also that 2 years ago, until 2 years ago, I was the only one in the world doing this, which feels kind of odd. again, thinking this is the best invention since sliced bread, other people should pick this up. And they didn't, so it became increasingly awkward. And fortunately, in the last 2 years, that has changed. So in our conference in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, there are now 27 startup companies working on the same idea, on clean protein, fish, chicken, meat, milk. And so I'm now in much more sort of convenient company. What's also interesting is the capital that goes into this. So this is not post-capitalism, this is really capitalism. There are large companies like Cargill and Tyson, so the meat industry, and Bell that are actually tapping into this and funding this. And also, of course, venture capital firms like Kozla, like a number of others, Tyson New Ventures, Merck Ventures. So a lot of venture capitalists are actually tapping into this. So this is my utopian world. It's very, very, very simple, actually, and seems very non-technological. It allows us to continue what we love doing, eating good stuff, eating stuff together with family, telling stories, cooking, without all the externalities of meat being food insecurity, environmental impact, and animal welfare issues. And with that, I would like to end. Thank you.
As Mark is not part of our podiums, I would love to have some questions from the audience. If there are any questions, anybody wants to? Yes. And
you would be the first audience ever not to have questions.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for the interesting lecture. I have a question regarding the land use. So one of the diagrams showed a reduction in land use, and then later on you were mentioning local production. The second thing about the local production, was that merely a sort of strategy to allow for adoption, or is this something that you would actually foresee being a reality?
I think this is going to happen. I don't know at what scale it's going to happen. I compare this with, and actually technically you can compare it with a microbrewery, right? We have large-scale breweries over the entire world, yet we have in communities local breweries with local produce. So I think that is likely to happen.
Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Every animal that has these stem cells in muscle, you can do this with. So it has been done for chicken, fish, pork, lamb, beef, duck. That's about it. Yeah, and technically it's not that difficult to go from one to the other. The reasons for doing species is very, very different. So cows are very inefficient. They emit a lot of methane, so they are much more detrimental to the environment than chicken, for instance, or fish. On the other hand, if you're doing this for animal welfare, there are many more chickens in inhumane situations being slaughtered for human purpose than cows. So for animal welfare, chicken is a much better target. And for biodiversity, fish is a better target. So there are different reasons for choosing between the different species, other than market reasons.
So I love the idea, but what about milk?
Yeah, it's a typical Danish, Dutch, or New Zealand question. Because in the Netherlands, for instance, I know the numbers, 75% of all our meat is actually a byproduct of dairy. Because we have so much dairy in the cows, and at some point the cows are done, and then we eat them. That's why the average quality of meat in the Netherlands is so bad, by the way. But some of those companies are making milk. Of course, we have already milk substitutes like almond milk and soy milk. I personally don't like them that much, but Perfect Day is now making milk proteins, casein, lactoglobulin, and all those components, and then add them to water basically and make milk that way. That's extremely promising. Not too long ago, I tasted their yogurt. Their yogurt is very functional. The taste is still a little bit off, but they will get there, I think.
But could
They
that
recently got $50 million of funding.
could that be a solution then for cheese? Because I'm avoiding cow cheese.
Right. No, cheese is. I mean, I'm Dutch. Cheese is a big thing for me.
Yeah, for me too.
Really, you can't imagine how big.
Yeah, besides fricadelle.
Yeah. And one very good reason for me never to become vegan is that vegan cheese basically sucks. There's no good one at all, and they're really horrible. So, but I'm supporting companies that are making cheese from plant-based origin. So I hope that they will be successful. But I would bank more on people like Perfect Day to make the milk, to start with the milk and then use it for cheese.